The case of Hosking versus Marathon Asset Management LLP. Hosking works at Marathon Asset Management as a portfolio manager, creating a successful investment strategy with his ideas taking shape over time. Hosking is trusted by the company and works tirelessly on the strategy as it grows to be an important asset to Marathon's overall performance and future success in the market. After leaving Marathon, Hosking realizes the firm has used his investment strategy after he departed and is unsure whether the company acted legally or if his work was misused. Hosking claims Marathon breached its implied duty of confidentiality by using his confidential strategy without permission, arguing that it was unfair for the company to benefit from his work. Marathon Asset Management argues the information Hosking claims as confidential is not protected anymore and can be used freely as it has become part of the general knowledge in the market. Hosking's legal team insists the strategy had significant value as a trade secret and that the misuse of it by Marathon was a violation of his rights and his former employer's duty of care. Hosking argues that the confidential information did not lose its protection automatically after his departure from the company and that Marathon had a duty to respect his intellectual property. Marathon counters that no clear contract term prohibited them from using the strategy after Hosking left and that there was no explicit post-employment restriction on confidential information use. The court begins reviewing the case and assesses whether there was a valid duty of confidentiality in Hosking's employment contract that would extend after his employment ended. The judge evaluates the confidentiality of the investment strategy, asking whether it had commercial value and if it was indeed protected as a trade secret by the nature of its content. Evidence is presented showing the significant impact the investment strategy had on Marathon's profits after Hosking's departure, leading the court to consider its potential value to the company. Hosking's lawyers argue that the confidential information remained valuable and that Marathon's use of it was unfair as it relied on knowledge created by Hosking's work and intellectual input. The defense claims that the strategy was not confidential and that the use of it by the company did not constitute a breach since the information was not classified as proprietary by the contract. The judge considers whether the contract implied any protection over Hosking's intellectual property, even though there was no explicit post-employment restriction written in the agreement. The court looks at other cases that deal with implied confidentiality and determines that an employee's intellectual work cannot be freely used by an employer once the employment relationship ends. The legal team for Marathon points out that there were no specific clauses about post-employment restrictions and that the information used was not part of the company's confidential data policy. Hosking's team argues that even in the absence of a written clause, confidentiality can be implied based on the nature of the employment relationship and the specific role Hosking held in the company. The court deliberates on the reasonableness of an implied confidentiality obligation extending beyond the term of employment, especially in industries where intellectual property is central. The judge concludes that Marathon had a responsibility to honor confidentiality obligations after Hosking's departure, considering the sensitive nature of the information developed during his tenure. The court ruled that Hosking could claim breach of confidentiality, as Marathon's use of the strategy violated his rights, even without a specific post-employment clause. Marathon Asset Management is found to have misused Hosking's confidential work, leading to the court decision that the information had retained its protection even after Hosking's employment had ended. The ruling emphasizes that employers must respect confidential information created by employees during the course of employment, even after the contract has been terminated without clear exclusions. This case serves as a reminder for employers about the importance of clear contractual clauses regarding post-employment use of confidential information to avoid legal conflicts like this. Hosking's victory highlights the value of intellectual property rights and the need to protect confidential strategies after the employer-employee relationship ends. The case sets a precedent for future disputes over confidential information in employment contracts and highlights the need to protect intellectual property after employment end. Thank you for watching.